On this episode of the Rebel Health Tribe podcast, available at rebelhealthtribe.com, we welcome Aglae Jacob from RHT.nutrition.com. Welcome back to the Rebel Health Tribe podcast. I'm Joe Rignola with Michael Roseline. What's up, Michael?
Hey, Joe. How's it going?
Oh, man. Crazy morning, as usual. These early morning podcasts are interesting.
Early morning? It's 11 o'clock over there.
It's 11 o'clock. Yeah, well, you know, when you've got a 4-year-old and you make breakfast from scratch every morning and, you know, this life is insane and you have an 8-month pregnant wife.
That's true. That's a lot going on.
11 o'clock could seem a lot like 6 o'clock in the morning.
That's true.
Life is crazy. But today, speaking of pregnancy, we're joined by one of our mama experts that we interviewed a couple of months ago, Aglae Jacob. I always feel like I'm saying your name wrong, but Aglae, right?
You did pretty good. Yes, Aglae. Yes.
Aglae. It still feels like early morning for me, but and her website is RHT.nutrition.com. Aglae, thanks for joining us.
Thank you so much for inviting me. I'm really happy to be here this morning.
Oh, well, it's our pleasure. I like your wallpaper behind you. It's a cool pattern.
Oh, cool. Yes. Well, it's just a little thing that I made just for those kind of video recordings.
Oh, cool. Oh, there you go. A nice, simple background. So, Aglae, for folks who may not be familiar with you, just give a little background. Tell us what you do and why you do it.
Yes, so I'm a registered dietitian, and for many of your listeners, that might be a bad word or something a bit.
We don't judge.
Yes, exactly. But yeah, unlike most of the conventional, I like to call the other dietitians the conventional registered dietitians, and they have the, you know, that's what I was taught too when I went to dietetic school, and everything about the food pyramid and fats are bad and whole grains and fiber is what you need. But so that's how I practiced for the first part of my career, but then I experienced my own health issues, and I realized that I didn't have the answers. I still believe that food should be the solution, should help me, especially that I was dealing with digestive issues, but what I had learned in school was not helpful at all, and that's when I went to the dark side of things and started doing my own research and digging deeper into alternative and holistic medicine and nutrition, and it worked. I managed to heal myself, and so that's, you know, I've been a registered dietitian for 10 years now, and for more than half of my career now, I've been practicing with this new approach that is just so much more effective. It makes so much more sense, and it's really my passion to spread the real food word now.
Excellent. Tell us a little bit about RHT Nutrition.
Yeah, so that's my main blog and website, RHT.nutrition.com. Radicata, that's Latin for root, and I really, really like that word because root to me, it means going back to the root of health and medicine, which is food. It means going back to the health of to the root of our health issues. So not only trying to mask symptoms with drugs or even supplements. You know, I find that today there's a lot of green medicine that is practiced, and a lot of practitioners may describe their approach as more natural, but they're still throwing supplements at people in the hope of masking symptoms. So I really want to dig deeper and get to the root cause of people's issues. And also, to me, the word root also means that we should stay grounded and down to earth during that whole process. So that's why I came up with Radicata Nutrition.
That's great. I like that a lot. You mentioned, you know, you used, you know, this your new knowledge of more of maybe an ancestral approach to nutrition to heal yourself. What kind of health struggles did you deal with?
Yes, well, mostly digestive issues is what got me started. Actually, after practicing nutrition for about 5 years, I was a bit discouraged with my profession and just didn't find it really fulfilling. And I sold everything I owned and decided to go backpacking in South America for a few months. And well, it really led me on a new path, a new journey that I was not expecting at all. But I came back with a parasite, and that totally, before that, I'd never had any digestive issues. And I was, working with clients with IBS and those kind of issues, but it was difficult for me to grasp how debilitating those symptoms can be. And because I didn't have a lot of tools to help them, it was just not something that was on my radar too much. But when I started suffering with my own digestive issues, I felt so bad for all the clients that I wasn't able to help in the past, and decided that I wanted to make things right. But yes, there's that bloating and the bowel movements issues, and just feeling so unwell and fatigue. And with that also came a lot of headaches and insomnia, low energy, mood issues. So it was not a fun time in my life.
Yeah, it sounds so. So it wasn't until you really struggled with your own health issues that you realized that everything that you learned, everything that you teach other people, wasn't necessarily working.
Exactly, and that was really a difficult time in my life, on top of the health issues, to just feel a little bit feel a lot betrayed by my education, and just feeling like, it was a lot of waste in terms of time and money, trying to learn all of these things and figuring out that it wasn't true. But now I'm glad that it all happened for a reason, and I think it gives me a lot of perspective, and it allowed me to, it was just, the right timing, everything fell into place. But yes, it was hard. And also, knowing that I never wanted to teach anyone to follow the diabetic plate, or any of those guidelines that didn't make sense to me anymore, and knowing that I couldn't get just a regular job as a dietitian anymore, because I wouldn't want to follow those rules, was a little bit scary. But I'm so glad I took the leap and just dove right in, because it's just the most rewarding thing right now.
Well, that's great. That's great. So let's back up. We'll talk more about this stuff. Let's back up a little bit. Where did you grow up?
I grew up in Canada, so I don't know if you're familiar with the province of Quebec. So it's on the eastern side of Canada, and it's a French-speaking province. So hence my accent and different name. But yeah, that's where I grew up. I actually grew up on a farm, but not an organic farm. So I saw firsthand how conventional agriculture is practiced, and it's really interesting, because now I teach everything I learned about organic agriculture and the better way to produce food to my parents, and they so wish that they knew that stuff back then. It's just the way it was done and what was around them. So I just feel like spreading the word and educating people can help change a lot in the future.
Wow, that's interesting. Mike and I are big hockey fans, so we're familiar with Canada.
Quebec, Montreal.
I know where the cities are that have hockey teams.
Right, exactly. Quebec's one of those cities, so we're familiar with it.
Good.
We have an interesting, Mike, I think in the past couple of weeks we've talked to maybe 3 or 4 people that grew up on GMO farms, like monocrop, soybean, corn farms, which is bizarre.
Recently was Corey Schuler.
Corey, and who else did we just talk to?
I don't even remember. Man, we're doing these so rapid fire, I'm forgetting who's who. But we did do more of people who grew up on farms, and you're in the same club as me. You almost went to naturopathic medicine school, or you did and you dropped out or something. I moved to San Diego to go to Bastyr for naturopathic medicine and decided not to. So we're kind of in the same club there.
Yes. It was, I did half of the program, and everything changed when I got pregnant and had my son, and figured out that being a registered dietitian was enough, and that I could help people that way. And I didn't feel like investing more time and resources into that really hard and strenuous program.
Yeah. So what kind of farm did you grow up on?
It was a dairy farm.
Oh, it was a dairy farm. Okay.
Yes.
Oh, interesting. Okay.
So yeah, well, I mean, they were good and bad. I drank a lot of whole fat milk, but it
Right.
was not. Yeah, they were mostly grass fed in the summer, but during the winter they were fed a mostly grain based diet.
Yeah.
So yeah, I guess
Not a lot of green grass in Canadian winters.
do.
Yeah, exactly. That's
Yes.
pretty tough. So it was your family's farm? Your family owned that farm?
Yes, it was a small family farm. Yeah.
Oh, okay.
Yeah,
Okay.
yeah. I mean, yeah. So I can say that it was the worst farm. There were a lot of good things because it was a small family operation, and also we were outside and a lot and close to nature, and those.
So a lot
they
of
were,
positives.
exactly. So
Sure, a lot of
it
positives.
probably outweighs some of the bad.
Does your family still own the farm?
Yes, they do. They don't.
Oh, really?
They're like semi-retired. They don't have the cows anymore, but they're just growing crops now.
Oh, cool. Okay. Awesome. Awesome. Do you get up there to visit sometimes?
Yeah, once in a while, yeah.
Awesome.
Although my husband is a little bit, I don't know if I should use I want to say paranoid, but I'll say cautious with pesticides and stuff like
Sure.
that. So yes, I mean for a good reason. So
Of course, yeah.
when I was young, I used to walk in the fields and all of that. But once I got pregnant and we had our son, then
Yeah.
don't feel that those fields are as close to nature or as we would like them to be.
Yeah,
So,
probably not appropriate for a child to be in and around that particular soil.
Yes, it makes sense.
Yeah. So when did you how long did you stay in Canada, in Quebec for? How long were you?
I grew
mostly
up
on?
there. I had my degree until I was about 20, in my early 20s, and then I moved to another part of Canada to learn English because up to that point, my whole life has
It was
been in
just French.
Yes, exactly. So I learned English in my mid-20s,
Oh, wow.
and by just moving within Canada. So
Yeah.
that
And so
a big move.
your parents still speak just French?
Oh yes.
Oh,
Well, they
that's
can
really
say toaster and yes, no, those type of things, but
Yeah,
yes,
yeah,
it's
yeah.
only French. Yeah. So it's funny because I wrote books in English, but they can't read them.
Right.
Oh, that's funny. Has your book been translated into French?
No.
No? Your book is great, by the way, actually. It's my favorite book on... I have it right over there. It's my favorite book on digestion. Yep, that
There it
book
is.
is on my bookshelf. I could go get it, but I think you guys trust me. But it's my favorite book on digestion, but it doesn't... It's the most comprehensive. It covers the science of digestion and gut health, but also has recipes and also has practical things and also has anecdotal stories and also has, it's a solid book. And
Thank you.
we have it linked in our Primal 90 program in our module on, I think we have it in the basic nutrition section, in the advanced nutrition, and in the gut health sections. But it's digestive health with real food, and it's fantastic. And you have a cookbook, too, that follow up to that?
Yes, exactly. It's a companion cookbook. It's the same title, and there's just more recipes for people with different food restrictions.
Did you learn how to cook on the farm, growing up?
Well, yeah, my mother always cooked a lot, but then I had to relearn how to cook grain-free and, those different nuances. But yes, I have a love-hate relationship with cooking. There are phases where I enjoy it and other times where I like the time, energy, and inspiration. So it's good to have those cookbooks to keep us motivated.
Right. But was there at least an emphasis growing up on the farm of at least whole foods or real foods?
Yes, I mean, whole wheat bread was thought to be healthy.
Yeah.
That kind of conventional way of thinking. But yes, definitely mostly home-cooked food.
Yeah.
So probably.
You said it was a smaller family farm. Do you have memories of working on the farm as a kid growing up and actually milking the cows?
Had many chores. Yes. Yes. We had to work on the farm from a young age, and I even, it seems surreal to me, but I drove tractors, and I don't know how I was able to do that.
That's awesome.
Yes.
So some of your earliest memories from the farm is just getting up, probably getting up at the crack of dawn and having chores and driving a tractor.
Exactly. So that's, from a young age, I also decided that I wouldn't want to have a farm because it's a lot of work.
It's a lot of work, yeah. A lot of late hours, early morning hours.
Yes, wow. And it's difficult to travel when you have so much to
a lot of responsibility.
Mm-hmm.
How many cows did they have? Do you remember?
Yeah, it was about 60 something, so it
Yeah.
was just, not none of these like hundreds and hundreds of cows,
Yeah,
just
yeah.
for a one family operation.
That's good. That's good.
Enough to keep someone busy,
Yeah.
though.
And do you remember ever having health issues growing up, or it was just when you
Not
started traveling?
so much.
Yeah.
I felt pretty healthy. Yes, no, not much.
Yeah.
Surprisingly, my a little bit of asthma, and it's interesting because many research show that kids raised on a farm are less likely to have asthma.
Less
But
likely, yeah.
I wonder if it's the type of farm. I know some of these studies were mostly conducted in Germany, where
Yeah.
regulations are a lot different. So yeah, but fortunately, I was okay. But things caught up with me later on.
Yeah. And so what was your motivation to go to school for nutrition, to be a dietitian?
Well, I had an older cousin who was studying to become a registered dietitian, and it just seemed to make so much sense. I just felt like food had to be so. It just made a lot of sense to me, and intuitively, I believed in the power of food as medicine right away, and I just wanted to go there. And I also, well, I guess in the back of my mind, I also wished I could find the magic formula to lose weight and stay at a healthy weight more easily, but. And that's interesting because I think there's a lot of that, well, at least in the people that I know who went to registered dietitian school or to become a nutritionist, and there's usually some part of your own health issues or own body image issues sometimes that might be part of the mix, but yeah, that was a part of it for me until I had my health issues, which were the biggest driver in me deepening my knowledge of nutrition.
So you think was your weight something that you struggled with as a kid?
I was never like super overweight, but in the society we live today, it's we never feel like we're thin enough.
Look like a cover of a magazine, and that's a problem.
Yes, it is a big problem.
So where did you go to school to be a dietitian?
So I studied in Quebec City, so Laval University. So it's a French-speaking university, and that's where I did my bachelor's and master's.
Okay. How long ago was that?
How long it took to get the degree?
When did you start school for that?
I started right away in 2002, I guess, and graduated in 2006, 7 with my master. It took another year, but yeah. So and then there were internships in a hospital, which were pretty horrible. They were kind of part of the training to become a registered dietitian. But yes, I knew that I didn't want to work in a hospital.
Have you gotten backlash from the organization, whoever certifies you? Because Steph Frankie is a registered dietitian, and then I just talked to Cassie, I don't know her last name. Cassie, she's in Minnesota, friends with Corey Schuler. I just met her. She's got an online thing, but she's a registered dietitian.
Cassie is our website. Yeah.
Yeah. I just talked to her the other day. Do you guys? I mean, I thought about it going like dietitian or clinical nutritionist or something, but there's so much like. Don't they try to regulate what you're saying or teaching? Do you get threatened at all? Or is there any sort of fine line you have to walk or anything?
Yes, that's tricky, and that's one of the things that I was the most scared of when I came out of the box and had my website and told the whole world that I was practicing differently. But yes, we are regulated. We have to follow certain rules, but the core of these rules is to practice using an evidence-based approach, and I feel like I'm doing that way more than what most other
for sure
are. And I had never had any backlash or threats. I know another registered dietitian in the States who had written articles about the benefits of saturated fats, and the American Dietetic Association sent her a letter and wanting to take away her license and all of that, but she was able to write a big paper with all the evidence and the scientific studies proving her point, and they couldn't do anything.
How do you argue with that?
Exactly. So I feel, and I've built a community of registered dietitian. We have a group, like a network. So now we're 300 are probably closer to 400 now. It's still not a whole lot, but at least it helps us feel united. And if something were to happen, we would be able to support each other and just.
That's great.
Yeah. Mm-hmm.
Yeah, I mean, even a group of 300 or 400 people within that dietitian community is that's a pretty good movement.
Mm-hmm, mm-hmm. Yes.
That's great. There's a lot of sort of conventions, dietitian conventions, and it's like this room is sponsored by Coca-Cola, this room is sponsored by General Mills. It's like, does no one see the conflict of interest there?
I don't know. It's so strange to me now, but the first part of my career, when I went to those conventions, we were just, grabbing the free snacks and just having a good time, and it just felt normal because that's what we were exposed to. But
sure.
Now
Coke Zero, there's no calories in this Coke Zero. This must be healthy, right?
Yes, when only the numbers, it's pretty much, I feel like for most conventional dietitians, the numbers are your main focus. The calories, the grams of this and percentage of that. But when you step back and have a whole food, real food-based approach, then those things don't matter as much, and you see all of those conflicting things that are happening, and it's a bit sickening.
Yeah. So you go through your whole dietitian course, master's, right, in nutrition. And then it wasn't until after that you moved. I forget what part of Canada you said you moved to.
I don't think I mentioned it, but I moved to Ottawa in Ontario, and yes.
Yeah, so we're familiar with Ottawa too because they have
hockey, Senators.
Hockey, yep.
Quebec actually had their team taken from them, and they moved to Denver.
Yeah.
Which is ridiculous because it's like the hockey capital of the world. So
it wasn't. Yeah.
It was probably a lot of unhappy people.
Yes, it was a lot of drama.
I'm sure.
Absolutely. So you finished your master's. You moved to Ottawa. Then you just started learning English then.
Well, I mean,
it's great. It's great because you speak English really better than I do. So.
I don't think. Well, it's a bilingual country, but in parts of Quebec, there is no English whatsoever happening. So, of course, in school I learned like the basics, but it was really hard for me to communicate, and so that I really had to learn. I started even though I was a registered dietitian at that point, I actually started working as a waiter just to help with my English, and then I felt confident enough to go for interviews to get a more professional job. And
that's interesting. That's interesting. And so after you did like an internship in the hospital, where did you work after that?
So my first real job as a registered dietitian was in Ottawa. I actually worked for Health Canada, which is the equivalent of the FDA, and I worked as a scientific evaluator. I don't think I've mentioned that before, but to review infant formula applications. So big companies wanting to put infant formulas on the market. So we had to review all the paperwork that go with that, and so that was my first job.
That's crazy, especially kind of in hindsight with what your focus is now. That's must like drive you crazy now thinking about that.
I've been nursing my son. He's still 18 months, and I've never had to I've had success with that and never had to buy formula. But it's kind of it's funny to look back at that.
So your job there was to just sort of analyze the research that they did, and in order to approve the.
And it's a bit scary because there's no Health Canada or the regulating agencies don't do any of their own studies or don't
Sure.
The only thing we double check is the paperwork that the companies gave us.
I don't know if a lot of people realize that the FDA, our FDA, and your Health Canada, they don't actually do the research themselves. It's not like it's necessarily third party. It's the company themselves that does the research, right?
Yes, they provide all the information, and we just review that, which I think, I don't know. I don't know.
And you don't really see all of the data from the research. They show you basically the final
That's what they want us to. Yes, exactly.
You see what they want you to see. And so they're going to submit something that they know is going to get approved.
Pretty much, yes. It was really rare that it was, or maybe we would ask for little tweaks. It was mostly on the way, on the label, maybe how things were said, but yeah, we wouldn't have much to do in terms of changing the formula because they already knew what criteria to respect.
Right. Did that raise a red flag for you back then, or was that's just the status quo and that was normal and you just kind of...
Well, it was a little bit awkward. Well, I guess even in my master's, during my master's degree, reading so many scientific studies and seeing how science is done, I started seeing that you could, make your data say pretty much anything you wanted it to say, and then, with that, seeing that I don't know how you can have much trust in I would like to live in a world where we can really trust companies to do that, but I felt like it was probably there was some bias, and so some red flags were raised. But the main thing that I noticed from working at that job at Health Canada was that I really needed to have more contact with people and feel like I was making a difference and helping people. But because working in a cubicle like that was just so alienating. And I was up to drinking like 4 cups of coffee a day, which is not normal for me at all. But I just, it was, an awful job.
So I remember the first time I read about the approval process of the FDA. I can't speak for Health Canada, but the FDA, the first book I read that described it in detail was Seeds of Deception from Jeffrey Smith about GMOs.
Yeah.
And I was just blown away. And they're understaffed, like how drastically they're understaffed, how they're underpaid, how like the best people in the field, none of them would ever go work for the FDA. Like the scientists that are developing the things like these, it's like an entry job. Like it's an entry job, and then the people go to the private sector as soon as they can.
Yeah, right. This is revolving. And they start out at the FDA or Health Canada and go to the private sector, and then they go back to FDA or the USDA or Health Canada or whatever
but the way that they rig these approvals, like they'll do a study and say people are getting sick on the study. They'll either remove those people from the study or they'll reconfigure the study and do it a different way, or they'll cut the window down from whatever the time period was, so then it only goes here. So they, instead of a year study, people are getting sick in the first 6 months, so they cut those people out. Or they start getting sick at 6 months.
Right, so then
they cut that second 6 months out and they only include the first 6 months. Or they just say, all right, well, this made women sick. This study's only on men. This drug helps men. Like, it was unbelievable when I started learning this stuff. And then the people think the FDA and the USDA do these studies. And they don't. Well, one, they don't have any money to do it. Like, they don't get a budget or people or staff or labs or anything to work in.
Kind of resources.
They get a desk to review papers that the company gives them to put a stamp on, and it just blew my mind. I was like, how is this a thing? Like, how is this the way that we do it? And then these companies complain of over-regulation when in reality there's nobody regulating them at all.
Right.
It's really backwards. Yeah.
Wow. I'm glad you were able to get out of there, because now you're doing all sorts of awesome things for lots of people.
Yeah, exactly. So I take it you didn't last there very long. How long were you there?
No, not even a year, like maybe 8 months or something. Yes.
Wow. Okay. Yes. And so what was when you left there, was it like, I have to get out of here? Like, were you going kind of stir crazy? And did you know what you were going to do after that?
Yes. And it's interesting because in Canada, the pay was really good, actually. I don't know. So working for Health Canada, you have pretty good status and good salary income and all of that. So it was hard for
hard to leave.
Yeah, it was hard to leave for that reason, that financial security. And, if I were still there, I would be making a lot more money than I am now, and I have, that job security and all those things. But yeah, I'm really glad I gave that away.
You left with your integrity intact, which is more important.
Yes.
So what did you do? Like, did you have a plan for leaving? Like, what you were going to do after that, or did you just jump ship and hope for the best?
Well, actually, it probably after 6 months of working there, I was already in the process of looking for another job. So I had a job when I left.
Okay.
Yes.
Excellent. So
and that's when I started working as a diabetes educator educator. So I really loved working with people, teaching. We did group education and one-on-one counseling, and that was a lot more fulfilling. It's just that the tools that I had were not the best.
Sure.
The Canadian diabetic guidelines are similar to the one in the US, and it's a lot of carbs, and they need to eat like 45 to 75 grams of carbs per meal, which is a whole lot of pasta and bread and all of these things that are not so good for your blood sugar. So that's what that job helped me realize.
Got ya. So you were giving these recommendations based on the guidelines, and that's another certification. I know here in the States, it's diabetes educator.
A certified diabetes educator. Yes.
Okay. And so, how far into that did you realize that the recommendations just were not good?
Well, I guess it took me about 2 years. Yes.
Yeah.
I mean, at first, I guess it was working for some people. The ones really eating the worst, the most terrible
if they're
diet.
coming to McDonald's and they're eating whole wheat bread, that's probably an improvement.
Exactly. So it was a little bit of a step up, but more and more. And at first, you kind of did not. You feel like for the people not seeing results, it's probably because they're not compliant enough. You feel that you fall into that trap, and that's a lot of the non-compliance is like one of a very a term that was thrown at all of these people is not getting the result they should be getting.
They blame them.
Exactly. And a lot of doctors and nurses and dietitians use that. But now at some point I was just seeing that happening over and over again, and I realized that it was not their fault, and it was the tools that we were using that were to blame.
The whole system was backwards.
Yeah, so it took me a couple of years to realize that.
Yeah. Well, yeah, because some people were getting results, like you said, so it wasn't so cut and dry. It wasn't black and white.
And there were a lot of them were using a lot of medication and insulin at the same time, so that was helping to deal with those carbohydrates. But it was not the best approach.
Yeah, it wasn't necessarily the food. It could have been just that their medication was tuned in at that particular time. So you're there for a couple of years, and then you started to make this change. You started to do more research, I would imagine, and you started to find something that looks a little bit more like an ancestral approach.
Yeah, I discovered low carb first, and heard a little bit about paleo, and that's when I just dropped everything and sold everything I own, and that's at that point that I went traveling to South America. Yeah.
Wow. Okay,
so I didn't know if I wanted to keep doing that as a career. I didn't know what to believe anymore. I was just really lost.
So you were really frustrated.
Yes.
At that point. And so you sold everything. kind of it was like, that's it. Screw it. I'm out of here.
Exactly.
And so you spent all your entire life up to that point in cold Canada.
Yes.
And you said, I'm going to go backpacking in South America. What did your family think when you made that move?
Well, I don't know. That's a good question. Now it's hard to remember. It's 6 years ago, but they probably thought I was a bit crazy, but they felt like I needed it. Nobody argued with me.
Oh, that's good. That's good.
Yeah.
So that's awesome. I want to do that, so I'm jealous.
Yeah, totally. Well, you got to at least go to Nicaragua for 3 weeks. That was cool.
Yeah. 3 months backpacking would be something. We met a bunch of people in Nicaragua who had started in either Costa Rica or like Honduras, El Salvador, or Mexico. They started somewhere and they were heading south, and they were at the beginning of their 3 months. We met a few people who were like 3 weeks into 3 months or 2 weeks into 6 months. We met one couple from Canada that was on 9 months. They were doing 9 months from Mexico to the southern tip of South America, down the west coast, and then back up the east coast, all the way back around, and then up to Canada.
Amazing.
And they were
back to Canada.
Yeah, back to Canada. They had it planned through the U.S. Everything, 9 full months, and I was just like, man, I was excited to come here for 2.5 weeks.
Yeah.
But it made me really think about like, I'd love to do something like that, and so we started talking about like how to make it happen. And as long as there's internet along the way, I could still kind of do work. And but the internet, as you know, and we'll get to in a second, spending a few months in Costa Rica, the internet is less reliable in a lot of those places than it is what we're used to.
Yes.
So.
It has gotten a lot better in the past few years, but yes, it's still limited compared to what we have
And I
here
think Costa
in North
Rica is
America.
probably one of the best places in Central America for internet because there's a ton of Americans there and expatriates.
That
And
helps.
I think Nicaragua is like Canada South because we probably met 4 times more Canadians than Americans there.
Really?
Yeah, almost. I'd say at least 3/4 of the like North American people we met. At least 3/4 of them
Wow.
were Canadian, and representing too, like maple leaf patches on their backpacks, on their hats.
Nice.
Like,
Be really proud of.
yeah, and I don't know if that's unique to Nicaragua or if they love
know.
traveling in Central America or what it is, but most of the people we met were Canadian. And I said I've met more Canadians in Nicaragua than I have in the United States.
That's
so
really
funny.
cool.
You were probably escaping the winter.
That's what they said, and they said it was a lot cheaper than to go to warm places in the U.S. Because for them the flight is almost the same amount of money to go to like Central America as it is to go to California or Florida or somewhere, and it costs a fraction of the money once you're there. Yeah, but it was cool. We hung out with a whole bunch of Canadians. Sorry to cut off and go on.
Oh no, it's fine. It's all. So I want to. Where in South America did you go?
I went to Peru, Bolivia, and Ecuador. I even did some volunteering on the Galapagos Island, which are part of Ecuador.
Wow.
And so it was wonderful.
What volunteering did you do?
Yeah.
In nutrition, actually. So it was. There's actually really an epidemic of diabetes and hypertension, and that's because on the island all of the food is imported and it's mostly processed food. And people are there's more obesity and all of the disease that go with that. So it was kind of an opportunity for me to get back into nutrition and try different things and see how I could tweak my practice to align it with my new everything I had learned to this point.
There must be some culture there though that still sort of lives off the land, or are there any?
Well, actually, no. It's not there were no one was living there. Exactly. It's just in the last 40-ish, 50 years maybe that people came from the mainland, from Ecuador. At first it was a jail, I think, so there were people managing
Oh wow, I
that.
didn't know that.
And then that's the first thing that the Galapagos Islands were used for, and for some military purposes. And then tourists grew, and now that's the main reason why some Ecuadorians are moving to the Galapagos in the hope of making some money in the tourist industry.
Gotcha.
I have a friend who was just there last year and said it was incredible. That he went with a biologist. Like there's people there that are scientists who will take tourists out. So you're not going with like a tour guide. You're going with a biologist or herpetologist. I don't even know the right ologist word to use. But he went with a conservationist, a biologist, like a little team of scientists took them out. And he said it was just mind blowing. Like it was
the beauty.
Incredible. Cool. That's awesome.
Yeah.
That sounds really, really cool.
I want to be your suitcase.
That the Galapagos was a prison at first. Are there any ruins left there from the old military?
No. There's not much left. Only like ruins from the jail and prisons, but there were no trace, human. No human traces except for some pirates and stuff like that who stopped there to replenish and to get some turtles. Those big tortoises. They would get one because they could live like for up to a year without having to feed them or give them anything. So that was a good source of meat for them.
Interesting.
But yes.
So how far into your trip did you picked up a parasite and you started getting sick?
Yes, that was towards the end of my trip in the Menu jungle in Peru, and the symptoms were kind of on and off. I guess it's common with some parasite to have some kind of cycle and phases where you feel a little bit better and a bit worse. I didn't know what was happening, but I then moved to Australia, and that's when things really started to get worse. Yes, because
So you didn't really do any traveling at all then.
After that, I caught the travel bug and lived in Australia for a year, and then in Germany for another year. So in Australia, that's where I was at my worst with my digestion, and did a lot of research and started my healing. And then the next year, I was living in Germany. That's where I wrote my book. So it's funny to have all of these stops around the world. Yeah.
So you got, obviously you took time, you recovered your own issues from the parasites, and then did you head back to Canada at all? Did you go, when you were in Germany, you moved back to Canada for a while?
Yes, after writing my book, I decided I wanted to go back to naturopathic medicine school, so I moved to Toronto, and so that's when I did a couple of years of studying naturopathic medicine.
And when did you, in this whole journey, when did you meet your husband?
Oh, we have been together for a long time. We've been high school sweethearts, so we've been together since for the whole time. For 16 years now. Yeah.
Wow, that's really cool.
Yeah, so he always followed me with that craziness, and he's been happy to
that's really cool.
Tag along.
Yeah, well, of course. That's it's why wouldn't he? Why wouldn't he be? And so about halfway through naturopathic school is when you got pregnant?
Yes, exactly. And that was a big surprise because I have PCOS, and although we were ready to start trying, we didn't know that it would go so well. And I guess all the healing that I had done to improve my digestive health and regulate my hormones really paid off because I got pregnant really easily and had a really smooth pregnancy.
Oh, that's awesome.
And I was still planning at that point to go back to naturopathic medicine school. I took a little break when my son was born, but when he turned 6 months, it just didn't feel right anymore.
Right.
And considering, it's funny because I had done all of that traveling and thinking outside of the box and trying to not be in a system, and I felt like I had just put myself back in a box and in a system. And although naturopathic medicine school is probably a lot better than conventional medicine, it's still it's not my best way to learn things, and it was it just felt like it was putting myself in a box again.
There's still, I guess even though it's natural, it's an improvement. It's still a little bit of maybe green allopathic medicine that's
sometimes, yes.
Yeah, it goes on. That's interesting. And so how long were you back in Canada? Did you gave birth in Canada, and then you decided that you were going to move to Costa Rica?
Yes, when my son turned 1, we went to Costa Rica for 3 months or so. So that was last fall, and it was just great. We were we knew we wanted to leave Toronto because it's a really expensive city to live, and I didn't want to go to naturopathic medicine school anymore, and we weren't sure where we wanted to go. So Costa Rica seemed like a good place to go in between.
Excellent. And so that's you're not in Costa Rica anymore. Where'd you?
I moved back to Canada. Now I'm on Vancouver Island, so on the west coast in British Columbia, because it's just easier sometimes to have a foot down in your own country. Many things, I don't know, visas and things like that are always a bit complicated when you're outside of your own country. So we're trying to have like a home base here in Vancouver Island because there's no snow in the winter. It's
there's no snow there in the winter?
No.
Vancouver's like Seattle.
Right, pretty much, yes.
Maybe like a rare snow, but if it did, it would melt right away. And
I didn't know that.
Yeah, so it's rainy, but yes, exactly. But and it's a lot of nature, outdoors things, and it's more health conscious than other parts of Canada. Being on the West Coast, I guess it's the same down in the U.S. with so yeah, it felt like the best place to be right now. And my goal is really to gain some stability with my business and everything else, and then maybe go traveling, 2 or 3 months at a time, and every year. So that's my goal.
Well, that sounds great. I mean, what a great story and full experience you've had so far in your life. It's fantastic.
Yeah, we're looking to do the same thing, so I'll definitely want to talk to you about your experiences in Costa Rica. We did a lot of exploring when we were in Nicaragua, but we weren't there long enough to see like everywhere we wanted to see. We could have tried to go to like a ton of places and see everywhere, but then we'd have been traveling like every day. And after going through it, we're glad we didn't do that because the traveling is kind of a pain in the ass with the buses. Nothing runs like here. We're very used to like very punctual. Like if the bus here is 3 minutes late to come to the stop, people are grumbling and on their phones texting the bus people or whoever. there, like if the bus leaves on the same day it's scheduled to go, it's a win. So
It
and
really
you're on it with
changes
like
your,
chickens and whatever. So we're glad we spent more time in less places, and instead of doing less time in more places. But I'd love to chat with you about Costa Rica too, because we want to check that out, and we're looking to potentially set up a retreat location down there, and yeah, and just comparing notes about what it's like to live outside the country. So I'll be bothering you for details.
I'm excited. I love talking about that stuff, so I'm happy to help.
Good. And let's come full circle and talk about your website, radicadonutrition.com. What can people expect when they go there? I know there's like a get started button. What happens when they click on that?
Well, yes,
button there?
there's it's really where they can find everything about me. They can find my podcast, Real Food Mamas. From there, they can find about my books, Digestive Health with Real Food, and I blog. I like talking about the other side of nutrition, like how recent blog post I wrote is how to start counting nutrients instead of counting calories, and how to natural ways to help with constipation or to boost immunity. So all those things that maybe we hear a lot about, but from another angle and my own perspective. And also I offer online coaching, so people can find about that. And I'm also trying to build an online course about digestive health, so people can stay tuned for that. And if they go to my website, radicatanutrition.com, there's a little tab that says freebies, so people can click on that, and I have some free ebooks and cheat sheets and stuff like that that they might like to get.
Excellent. Well, you do amazing work over there. We really appreciate everything that you do. And if we can help in any way with your digestion course, or anything we can do to help get the word out, of course, let us know.
Thank you so much. I'm so this is the best community I could ever hope for.
Excellent.
Thank you. Yeah, and our people loved your interview during the baby series, and you do specialize on little ones and moms and babies, but you have vast nutrition and gut knowledge. So when we do another series or another event that you would fit into, we will definitely be calling, and we'd love to have you back for more interviews and webinars and things of that nature.
Sounds good. I'll be here.
Great. Thanks, Aglae.
Thanks to you.
Thank you.
We'll talk to you soon.